Hi everyone, I've got another video for you guys, but this time it is specifically for those who are studying OCR GCSE literature, in particular the paper with uninspected course, if this is the set text that you're looking at. A lot of students do really struggle with this question because it's actually an extract from your chosen set text, which for those of you who are doing uninspected course, it would be that one. But then it is compared to an unseen extract as well, and I know that can be quite challenging, so I thought it would be a good idea to run through an example just to refresh your memory. So question A is where you are asked to compare, so that is what we'll be looking at in today's session aims. I'm not going to be showing the past candidate responses because of time, but also looking at the ways in which you need to find similarities and differences between the inspector course extract and the unseen extract as well. So firstly, what is required and examined in this OCR English Literature exam? So section A, if you are looking at inspector course, this is for you, and you need to answer both question A and B, so you don't have a choice, unfortunately, for this question. And for section B, you are looking at, this is if you are looking at, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but here you have a choice of either answering the extract question or the discursive question. So I've given you an example, this is taken from the OCR GCSE Literature Exploring Modern and Literary Heritage Text Specification, clearly outlining that the component is worth 80 marks. So 40 marks are available here, 20 for question A and 20 marks for question B. Once again, these are compulsory. Okay, so let's have a look at an exemplar for question A. So extract 1 is taken from An Inspector Course by J.B. Priestley. This scene is towards the end of the play. It now seems possible that Inspector Gore was not a real inspector and that a girl has not died after all. So please feel free to pause the video at this point before you answer the questions that are on the right hand side, just to familiarise yourselves with it. Okay, so just to recap now, obviously the information here is always useful that the exam will provide. Where does the extract take place? You should have worked out that this is from Act 3. And you also need to think about what is happening in this extract as well. So this is where the Burling family think that it was all a hoax. You still need to think about the key quotations that are used here. So of course, this part here, come, you can't see that, can you? You all helped to kill her. This idea that Mr. Burling is actually imitating the inspector in his final speech. That's of course worthy of discussion, depending on what the question is asking you, which I will share in a second. Sheila, it frightens me the way you talk. This is another quote that really stands out to me. Quickly skimming down, fire and blood and anguish, so mimicking the inspector's final speech as well, the tricolon that he used earlier on before he leaves. Okay, so this is going to be compared with an extract that you might not have come across before. In this extract from The History Boys by Alan Bennett, Erwin, a young history teacher, has been summoned to the headmaster's study because of the way he has encouraged a young student, Posner, to reflect on the Holocaust. Okay, so you can pause it again and read through this. So 3 questions that you need to ask yourself. Firstly, who is Erwin? Okay, so again, using the information that is given to you at the top. What happens in this extract and what play is this taken from? Okay, so we know it's taken from the History Boys, but what happens is something that you would have to work out yourself. And I don't really want to give you the answer because I know a lot of you would like to practice this as well. Again, this is a modern play text written in 2004. I would strongly recommend that you have a read of the History Boys as well. So question A, you would have about 45 minutes to spend on this question. Compare how sympathy and conflict is presented between characters. You should consider the situations and experiences faced by the characters, how the characters react to each other and the conflict witnessed by the audience, and how language and dramatic features create effects. I don't know if I can highlight using this. Oh, actually I can. That's pretty cool. So obviously you've got the key words here, sympathy and conflict, and I always say should actually read as you Can I change another? Yep. You must consider. I don't think it's a choice. So this is how I read it. You must consider the following 3 bullet points. So thinking about situations and experiences faced by the characters, how they react, this idea of conflict as well, and then once again the AO2, the language and dramatic features, is of importance as well. But bearing in mind, the biggest thing and the most important part of the question is here. Compare. Okay, that wasn't very neat. But compare is what you need to be thinking about. And so you can start off by drawing this table in your books or on a piece of paper. So on the left you've got the history boys, and on the right you've got an inspector calls. So phrases which make the headmaster and the Burlings unsympathetic. Phrases which show Erwin and the Burling children trying to explain themselves. And phrases which show that conflict is not resolved. And I think these topic sentences could be your paragraph. So you could write this as a first comparative paragraph, a second comparative paragraph, and a third comparative paragraph when you're trying this out. So I would definitely recommend that you have a go at this. And now within those paragraphs, you can think about these points as well. So where do characters use questions in order to intimidate? So this is actually asking you to focus on the language and the choice of words that have been used by both playwrights Bennett and Priestley. Which phrases show the older characters are not prepared to change their minds? So again, thinking about the conflict between the generations. So in the unseen, you've got this conflict that arises between the headmaster and Erwin, who represents, you can say, the younger generation. And in An Inspector Calls, you've got the conflict between Burling and Sheila and Eric in particular as well. So this is just my suggested paragraph structure that you can use. So you can think about starting off with a point. So a really good topic sentence could be the first text, or in An Inspector Calls, if that's the text that you would like to start with. I would recommend you lead with the text that you're studying, and most of the discussion should be on the first text. I would suggest 70% should be on your set text and 30% on the unseen, because the examiners are aware that it is something that you've probably not come across before, and that you're not going to have too much to say about it. Okay, and then you just follow the usual structure of including a quotation from this first text and then your analysis. Now, when I've put device here, what I would suggest is that you don't do what we call feature spotting, where you just mention the device and, you just don't explain it, for example. I think you are still rewarded definitely for just putting in quotations and analysing them. So don't always feel that you need to, go for that angle of feature spotting, this simile, this metaphor all the time, because that's not what is expected. Imperative here to include a comparative connective, so showing that you're comparing either, a similarity or a difference. Remember to have a balance as well. Don't just aim for everything that's the same in both texts. Try to have a balance of similarities and differences as well. And then within the same paragraph, so this is key. I know sometimes you're taught to compare in separate paragraphs. I wouldn't do that. I would suggest that you compare in the same paragraph. So similarly in the history boys, Bennett also, that suggests that this paragraph is about similarity, quote and analysis, and then of course referring back to the question. Now the level 9 is here. During your analysis, what you're doing is you're briefly going back to An Inspector Calls. So like An Inspector Calls, or like Mr. Burling, the head teacher is an unsympathetic character. Or, similar to Erwin, Sheila's character evokes pathos, or something like that, okay? So you're making those consistent links back, but only briefly, because then that's showing that you're doing what they want here, and that is to compare. Okay, so just to finish off, what I would suggest to you now is that was a really quick 10-minute video just explaining to you how you approach an OCR comparative question on a play text. So I would suggest that, you fill out the table. Of course, I didn't get time to put on the exemplar response, but I'll see if I can upload that at some point. But if not, I would still strongly recommend that you have a go at actually answering it and writing an essay. And hopefully if your teachers are willing to, I'm sure they are, to mark that just before your exam as well. So have a go at this, the History Boys and Spectacles question. If you've got any other questions that you'd like to ask me, anything that you're unsure about, please can you comment in the drop down box below. Thank you very much, and I really hope it's been beneficial.